Salutations, respected viewers. In this video, I'm going to say why I like the United States of America, because I've commented a lot about the gun control issue in the United States, although my opinions apply not just to the USA, to the whole world, though the USA is almost unique in its laws on that issue. Anyway, get away from that, because some of my interlocutors on YouTube have said that I must be anti-American and dislike the USA and so on. My opinion has no validity, but they think it worth commenting. So here are some things which make me feel warmly towards the United States. The United States. Well, the landscape. You might think it's an odd place to start. These are not in order of priority or anything, but patriotic American lyrics often mention that fact. I was enormously varied, from very tall mountains to fabulous beaches, deserts and forests and so forth, and prairie. I've only seen a tiny bit of it. I've only been to all the states of New England. I've been to Washington, D.C., a bit into Virginia, that's it. Well, being such a gigantic country, the people vary enormously. They say people are the same wherever you go. Well, John Lennon made that observation. This is what I've found and travelled to over 90 countries, that human emotion is universal. But the rules of behaviour are radically dissimilar. Something would be considered honourable in one society and disgraceful in another. So that's what really matters. And one always has to ask oneself, how would I behave if that was my culture? I was brought up to believe this, or someone did that to me, and so forth. Well, one of the things that really is worth admiring about the United States is this tradition of freedom of expression. Now, I know it's not unique to the United States, but certainly in the 18th century, the USA went further with this than most. It was somewhat there in the United Kingdom when Charles James Fox would go to Parliament during the American Revolution wearing the Continental Army's uniform, as in to emphasize he was supporting the American Revolution, or he would publicly denounce King George III as Satan. However, the USA was certainly ahead of its time, and is even now ahead of its time. And this even applies when it's quite disgraceful. Worryingly, freedom of speech is under threat in the United States, particularly in higher education, with safe spaces and trigger warnings, and some undergraduates believing they must not be exposed to opinions that they don't share, when surely education should be precisely about exposing oneself to contrary opinions. Anyway, well, the prices of various things are lower in the United States, like meals, food, clothing, and when there are sales, the reductions are drastic. There's good service in hotels, restaurants, and so forth. Perhaps, how to put it, saccharine, sycophantic, obsequious, that's the word. But then I think I mustn't blame these waitresses. Seem to be overdoing it to me, but they are trained to believe that's the right way to behave, and according to their culture, they're doing the right thing. So I mustn't judge them saying, hello, my name is Cindy, I'm your waitress for tonight. Probably waiter, they'll have to say, have to use the masculine noun, and you'll tell me what food you want to eat, and then I'll go and tell the chef, and he'll cook it, and I'll bring it back to you. Something like that. Well, music. Elvis, going as far back as him, Lady Gaga, Madonna. I mean, I could go on all night listening to some fabulous American performers. I used to like Guns N' Roses when I was little. So I remember reading a German journalist saying that American music had as much to do with winning the Cold War as anything else, because in Eastern Europe it just seemed so much more alluring than what communist culture had to offer. Hollywood, what can I say? We all know that's the center of world cinema, so the film industry there is magnificent, absolutely peerless. Well, I could rattle off films for a very long time, but I shan't. Literature, well, Longfellow, dipped into him a little bit, Kerouac, and quite a few other very distinguished American writers. I just read The Great Gatsby a few months ago. Fast food, I know it's not always quality, but Burger King, I gotta admit, I like it, hits the spot, and just the whole concept of doing it quickly. I think McDonald's came up with it, the whole idea that it's got to be an assembly line production system. Prior to that, I believe in the 1950s, people would make every burger, everything from scratch. It would take an awful lot longer. Well, the US Constitution, don't like all of it, but it's good to have a written constitution. Republic of Ireland has one, virtually every country does. The United Kingdom is very unclear what the constitution is and works of authority and how Erskine May or so forth got that status. But anyway, the Constitution works pretty well, and I like parts of it. I think some of it are perhaps too lyrical about believing that the Creator gave people certain rights. I mean, I agree with the rights, but although they came from the Creator, there's no particular reason to believe that they came from the Creator. The person who gave those rights, or the people who gave the ordinary people rights, are those who wrote and passed the Constitution, surely. Now, no country will ever be perfect. The United States has its flaws. The Republic of Ireland, where I'm from, the United Kingdom, where I'm also a citizen, they've also got things wrong with them. In some ways they're worse than the United States, in some ways better. So I've been all over, and it's difficult to generalize about the United States. In fact, it would be foolish to do so, because being so enormous and having 320 million people, there are all sorts of people there, and I would share attitudes with some of them and totally disagree with others. So someone being likable or dislikable has little to do with nationality. It's really to do with personality. And to some extent that's true of ideology as well. I used to be a member of the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom, and I abominated some of my confederates in that party, whereas I found some members of the opposing major party, Labour, to be most amiable. So it depends on the individual to a considerable extent. Now, one of the things I most detest about the United States is Trump and many of the sort of people who brought him to office. I remind myself he only got 43% of the vote, and even then a lot of Americans don't vote, so only about 30% of American adults actually voted for him. Unfortunately, he's doing fairly well in the polls, considering 39%, so it's possible he'll be re-elected. I console myself with the thought that he got a lower share of the vote than Hillary Clinton, and Romney when he lost, and McCain when he lost, and George W. Bush both times that he won, and Al Gore, and I think George Bush Sr. when he lost. So he doesn't really represent the United States, and he shan't be there forever. But even Trump occasionally tells the truth. He said about a very good-looking journalist, female, that looks count. And it's unfair that is the case, but Trump was, for once, saying something that is the plain truth, and he ought to be given credit for that. So I revile him in many ways. Just occasionally he says something veracious. Anyway, there's a lot to like about the United States. It's very innovative in terms of technology, in terms of medicine. So many scientific breakthroughs have been made there. I wish it would harness its energies in a more positive direction. Some of the anti-American myths are about stupidity. Obviously, stupidity exists in every country, and there are brainy people in the United States. It's produced plenty of Nobel Prize winners. It's got some of the top universities in the world. That's often to do with money. So I certainly do not dislike the United States, nor do I feel compelled to be excessively laudatory about it. So there we are. Tell me what you think about my country. I'm not reflexively defensive. It's right to disparage my country in some respects. I belong to two of them, kind of. I like to see the British Isles as one, though. And I don't presume that a criticism is bogus simply because it comes from a person of another nationality. And yes, you most certainly have the right to tell me what you think about my country, and don't feel the need to be tactful. Tell me frankly, I can take it.